What up, Cosmetic family?
Hey, welcome to YMCA World Council podcast.
Cosmetic means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
Hey, we're tackling topics and telling the truth.
I'm Rodrigo Ross.
And I'm Keith Benson.
So today so for YMCA folks, this is going to sound very familiar. Today's podcast is called Spirit, Mind, and Body. How creative was that?
You are so creative. I would have never thought
I'm going to talk to the
there.
guests. We're not going to do this in front of all of the guests today. But it is appropriate. I know it wasn't that creative, but it is so appropriate. We're going to be talking about this whole idea of community well-being and the belief that every person should have the means to grow and thrive. And we have some amazing guests. So I don't really care what you think about our title today because the guests are going to be everything.
We're going to allow them to talk. So
we're going to allow the guests to
please?
talk. I mean, good gracious. We have none other than, okay, wait, I've been practicing, y'all. Rami Khader. Close enough? I'm going to let him say it.
We got Rami right.
Yeah, we have Rami from the YMCA of East Jerusalem. The lovely, that's my cousin, Karen. We're not really cousins, but we are in my mind. Karen Friedman with YMCA and Antonio Merino, the CEO of the Latin American and Caribbean Alliance of YMCAs. Welcome to the Cosmetic Podcast, y'all. Woo! Yes, so glad to have you. Okay, so Rami, say it. Say your name.
It's Rami Khader.
That's exactly what I said. That's what I said. I said that, Keith. I said it.
Almost there. So we're in the space from now that like mental health is like really a thing. Like I think people are bringing it more to the table. We're coming from a place of that like I don't say anything about mental health, but it's real in everybody. I remember Michelle Obama stated, she said that talk about a low grade of depression. And like, when it just kind of resonated to me when I heard her say that right there. But we got so many people that are in this different space around mental health. Can you guys talk about some of the things that you guys are doing in your respective places?
The rehabilitation program has started back in 1989 as a response for the first Palestinian uprising against occupation.
Yes.
And the massive amount of young people who were demonstrating for their rights but got shot and injured as a result of that demonstrations. And the whole idea was to focus on the mental health and rehabilitation of young people in order to really focus on their well-being, but also to reintegrate them back into their communities, to be part of their communities and be a positive part of their communities as well. And we continued since then to promote community mental health and well-being for for people affected by political violence, whether it is children, their families, or their communities, through providing them with a package of rehabilitative services that tackle the issues of their mental health, but also their reintegration into their school. We have a very strong program in working with Palestinian children, ex-detainees who are imprisoned in Israeli prison, but then going out very mentally not fit and are not able to be engaged into their communities. So the focus of our program is really to work on individual counseling and family counseling and community counseling in order really to get that experience of bringing children back to their childhood as a result of a very traumatizing experience in prison. Hoping that we are transforming our community from being traumatized into being proactive leaders into their communities.
I love it. Just taking care. As a child, you anticipate the thing you'll have to worry about the most is, am I going to get to eat my favorite meal, right? Am I going to have Cheetos before dinner? And, can I eat ice cream when I feel like it? But so many of these children are really dealing with adult level issues. And how do we be intentional about helping them navigate through that so that they can, right, live their best life afterwards. That's amazing stuff. I love that. Karen, What are you doing?
Yeah, thanks. You know, and I just want to say from, you know, Rami and the East Jerusalem YMCA has been doing such great work. And in the U.S., we've learned a lot because we've seen how, and what we've been learning, right, is how do we connect youth, like you said, to community? How do we connect them to stable adults, relationships where they can have that stability and really bringing in that connection? I think in the U.S. context, you know, while we've known mental health has been a crisis prior to the pandemic really highlighted this for our youth. Right, and it's created an awareness that we are trying to ensure that we're taking, how do we take the opportunity now to talk about this, to talk about at the Y and in community that we all have mental health. We all resonate with this, so how can we as the Y figure out our role? It may be through some direct counseling because we also have violence. We also have a lot of trauma in our communities in the United States. So how can we provide, whether that's direct support, or if it's not, how do we be that stable place in the community where everyone can feel safe and have that, or go to camp and feel safe, daycare, that stable places. So really working with our Ys to support those places.
I like that. I like that. And of course, Antonio, we want to hear from you.
Sure. Well, not different in Latin America and the Caribbean. Even before COVID, we saw increasing rates of mental health disorders among young people, depression, anxiety, young people attempting suicide. So it was becoming, even before COVID, a huge issue. And one of the things we realized at the YMCA is that there were, I think it was out of the all public dollars allocated to overall, you know, the public health services in our countries, only about 10% of those went to mental health, and only 75 cents of each dollar was, 75 cents of each dollar was going to psychiatric hospitals instead of community-based prevention programs.
Wow.
So we saw a big gap and began actually talking about it, and some YMCAs started launching mental health programs. But COVID really gave us an opportunity to come together, begin mapping, you know, what are some of the best practices out there, what can be our response, and we actually got together all the YMCAs across the region to develop one program that we could launch all across the YMCAs to respond to this need.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that program? Because I know a lot of, again, mental health is coming up in a lot of conversations. You know, I know here at YMCA Metropolitan Dallas, we're trying to be in that space as well. But it's like, how are we to serve in that space? How are we to provide service? What's the service that needs to be provided? Because we all know how to talk about it, but then it's another thing of us doing it, and then also having some great outcomes that truly is supporting individuals in that mental health space.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the first challenges or areas that probably we all have is there is still a lot of stigma. So, you know, education, raising awareness was a big component of what we need to do. But when we began talking to many YMCAs, actually we reached out to YUSA, we reached out to many Ys across the world. We found that probably the approach that could best work for our YMCAs and our young people was a three-tier component program. One was peer-to-peer, so young people talking to other young people about how to manage stress, how to manage anxiety, even how to identify that I'm feeling stress and how do I go about it. So it's a peer-to-peer program. The second part that for us was very important is we need to make sure that this is beyond the young people. It's also about the people that are interacting with. So we incorporated a key adult education component. So those emotional reference for the young people had to be involved with us. So they could also be a support for them. And then for some more advanced cases, we actually got into counseling. So they could receive that more individual support, because the other is more like group-based support. But there were cases that, you know, needed more intentional support and more long-term. So they received some counseling, and also, you know, there are some risks associated. So also we need to identify cases that we as a YMCA cannot manage. So we also need to, you know, build a network so we can refer these young people to specialized support.
What about you, Rami?
I think the way we need to look at mental health at the moment is not only by what incident that caused mental health for an individual. We need to look at intergenerational trauma that is really affecting communities through time. That is the experience, for instance, in Palestine, that trauma is not happening only from political violence of the moment. It's happening because of the many incidents that happened from generation to generation, experiencing checkpoints, experiencing violence, experiencing detention, and it's going from one generation into the other.
Yep.
And I think we also share this experience with the African Americans as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I think trauma is happening, and it's happening big.
Yep.
And we need really to create community-led solutions for mental health, in which that we stop trauma from dealing with it through people's unconscious thinking as well.
Yeah.
Honestly speaking, when I think of the future of my own kids, although I always think of the bright future I want to give them, but it's always dominant with my fear of what they would need.
Absolutely.
What would happen to them on checkpoints, what would happen to them growing under occupation. And this is traumatizing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's the same thing, the conversation that we have in the U.S. You're right about the African American experience sometimes, and the things that we pass down, and the talk, so to speak, that we have to have with our kids, and how to be safe in communities, and some of the things that they may experience. But understanding that sometimes this trauma is not isolated to one group of kids or one individual kid, that it passes through. It's almost in the DNA of some folks.
You talk about the talk. As you say that, what's running through my mind right now, like, if your child has never experienced that or seen that, now you approach them with the talk. Isn't that like trauma in itself?
Right, in and of itself, right? But you feel like you can't not have the conversation with them, because what if they come up against this, right?
And sometimes they ask you difficult questions that you don't know how to answer. Like my child, my daughter, who's 9 years old, it's not only that she's asking me questions about living in a patriarchal society by itself, that I'm fearing having my daughter living in such community, but when she's stopped at a checkpoint, she would ask me why we are stopped this way. At one point, I do not want to give her an answer to indulge fear or indulge hate in her. I want to give her an answer that actually keeps hope alive. But make her conscious of the situation.
It's a delicate balancing act. It's delicate. The one thing that I will say, though, for young people, at least in my experience, so my niece, me and my niece, I'm trying to spend quality time with her because she's so cute, kind of like me. We like the same stuff, right? So one day we're out just shopping and having a good old time, and let's go here, let's go here, let's go here, let's do this. And at one point she just stopped me. She was like, "Auntie, you are overwhelming me." And I was like, when I was 8, did I know enough to tell somebody that they were overwhelming me? And so the fact that our young people are already proximate to the language and able to identify the feelings really on some level gives me hope, right? Because that means that they're prioritizing their mental health, and they're willing to talk about it and willing to tell me right in the middle of shoe shopping, which we had a discussion about her time, and she don't tell me in shoe shopping. But that she was over.
I mean,
you don't know.
With you, I would imagine
you don't
just stressing itself. So I
don't know what you're talking about.
This is coming through, but you know, I was talking to a dean of students at a university, and we were talking about how the young people come to college, and they have to go through a lot of counseling because they didn't deal with the situations. The parents didn't deal with the situation, and so you see this increase of suicide when kids get to college when somebody didn't deal with that situation, when they were younger. And it's like we gotta get into this space more and more and be able to see those little clues that our young people may be giving us. If they're coming to the YMCA in our programming, like how do we educate even our frontline staff more to be able to address those? I think about how parents bring their young people to camp now, and if they're on some type of medicine for ADHD or something like that, and the parent doesn't tell the counselor, it's like, Mom, Dad, please tell us. Like, we're on your side. We wanna help you, and we're not gonna judge. We just want to be able to come from a place that your child is not getting labeled, while they're in camp. And so we 3-4 weeks and we into camp season, and we may have to ask you to leave because we don't know. But when it's all like, Mom, Dad, if you'd have told us back then, like, we can support you in this effort. So like, how do we have those conversations more and more with parents as we dealing with our young people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and there are many layers. Just building on what Rami and you are saying is there are not only the structural challenges when it comes to poverty, and all of that, but also if you put it in a context of, for instance, male-dominant societies where it might not be okay for a young boy to talk about feelings.
Right.
So there are so many layers into this that we need to overcome, and I think the YMCA is and should be doing a lot more in helping us advance the conversation.
Yeah, because if you think about it, we're perfectly situated, right? We can really come in and provide these spaces to do that, and that's what we're excited about. To continue to talk about. We hear there's so many similarities across here. We've been talking about a community of care model, right? How do we position and support our staff so that they can be that first line? We're in community, we're with youth. Yeah. How do we elevate their voices to say when they're hurting, how can we connect you to that? In the U.S., we think sometimes the only way to support mental health is through a psychologist or through a counselor. Yeah. Right. We know there's lack, right? There's lack of services. It's very difficult to do that. We should look at the why as a first place, right? A first place where we can begin connecting, and then when needed, refer that over. So that's what we're really beginning to build the capacity of our staff. I think there's a big shift too, and it's generational, right? Youth are ready to talk about this, want to talk about this,
they
right?
Are.
They want to.
They are.
And from where I came from, you didn't talk about mental health. Nope. You couldn't talk about it in the workplace.
If you're a boy, you better not cry.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
Same
man
thing.
Up, man up.
Right, right. And it's different. This generation is really leading, because I think you alluded to this too, is our staff, right? Our staff and volunteers across the globe, their mental health is suffering.
Yep.
Right. So how can we also play a role in supporting that?
Absolutely. So in all of that work, right? And sometimes when you deal with this, you see all of the negative stuff, and you see the stuff that's not so. What is on the horizon in the mental health space that really excites you guys? Like, oh wow, we're starting to do this, or this is a thing now, and that's pretty cool. Like, what are you excited about?
What I'm excited about is that our work is really not only about mental health, it's about giving hope to the next generations. It's really keeping hope alive and making people always look at the bright side of the things. To know that the work you do on the ground, the field-based work, going from home to home, working with the children, working with their mothers, working with their fathers, with their communities, that you are really making a difference. And it's not really a difference that if you don't do, these people are left behind. Yeah. And that our program is leaving no one behind. I think that's what keeps us motivated. Although, to be honest, at times we feel pressured ourselves, because the amount of stories you hear on daily basis, it doesn't leave space for any hope, to be honest. And when you look at the political horizon, there is no horizon, to be honest. So you need to keep hope alive, otherwise despair will prevail, and then things will be very hard to deal with.
There was a young man that was walking around with a mic and a camera at World Council, asking that very question, like, why is hope important? Right, and it seems like a simple enough question on the surface, and me, not very often am I at a loss for words, but thanks. Okay. But at that particular moment, I really was, like, intrinsically, I know, right? Like, why hope is important. It is that game changer. It is the thing that helps fuel you for another day. But I agree, Rami, in certain instances, when you can't really see what to be hopeful about, it can be tough. Yeah. It can be tough.
Something that, man, if you don't have that to hold on, like, what is the next day, the next year, the next decade? That's not there. And as we work with our young people, like, you can't take that away. You got to constantly pour in that hope into them. Like, hey, here, hold on. But sometimes when they're traumatized, it gets, I would imagine, difficult for them. And I'm sure you guys see that, on some regular basis, and being specifically in that particular space. And so how do you guys give that hope to the young people?
I think by continuing to elevate youth into spaces and provide that, we all just want to be heard, right? And I think that as the Y continues to do that so well, how can we provide space to say we hear you, we see you, we want to connect with you, and have youth lead this. I think that provides hope for me, is that they are coming into this space, you know, for me, right, I'm like, all right, I'm getting out of the way, you know, how can you have these conversations, and how can we help support you?
Because I'm a young person, I feel seen.
Do you feel heard?
I do feel heard.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
I
But I
see
do
you.
say,
I hear you.
Hey, you want to roll today, Keith Vincent. Hold on. Antonio, what makes you hopeful or excited about the horizon?
As part of this, we actually last year, we did a community needs assessment across the region.
Yeah.
And we had multiple interviews, focus groups, and, you know, research. And I would summarize as young people telling us, one is we can help improve their mental and physical health.
Yep.
So we have a role to play. And they feel we could be that one safe space where they are going to feel welcome and are going to feel heard. Yeah. So that unique opportunity of contributing to improving the mental and physical health of young people, making sure that we increase, you know, their life satisfaction and also their sense of belonging to their communities.
Yep.
I mean, it's a unique impact we can have right now when it's much needed.
Yeah. So, Rami, what do you want people to know about this kind of work and the importance of focusing on and making sure that that's a part of your strategies and really centering mental health?
Sure. Well, what I want people to know is that, especially when you are in a conflict setting, when you are always under the pressure of being under occupation, stopped at checkpoints, humiliated on a daily basis, it's really important to know that our work is not only transforming the life of individuals, but it's really transforming the whole community into being a community that can stand up for their rights, be able to be positive, especially in the midst of this despair, and really be able to speak about themselves in ways that can be not only that we want them to survive the conflict, but we want them to thrive in our land and be able really to continue the good work.
I love that.
Thriving is what we need to have.
Yes, indeed.
Today.
Yes, indeed.
So
Antonio,
power through this.
Yeah. What do you want people to know?
That there is hope.
Yeah.
I want them to know that there is hope and that we can get together and provide real solutions.
Yeah. Wow. I know you want people to know something, Karen. I do.
I mean, I think there's a couple things. You know, I'm just excited too as a world movement, right? We have so many similarities, and so I'm just excited to work together, to continue to work together. We're continuing to do that here, but also this opportunity now we have with a world awareness around mental health. So how do we take advantage of that? And just want people to know, I think the Y has always been in this space, right? Spirit, mind, and body. You said it.
Body.
So this is a space I think we can really become, we have some work that's been happening for decades, right? That, I know EJY and in Latin America, but how do we continue to position ourselves within this space? I think the Y was meant, this is a time for the Y to come together and really support community mental health.
Yeah. Because us as young people, we are going to inherit this world. And
Rami had something to say, so I want to make sure Rami, because you're in this young people thing. I understand.
Because I'm a young people.
Yeah, well, they say the next decade of your life is the new.
Don't try to act like I'm Benjamin Buttons or something. Like, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah. Oh, Rami, go ahead, brother. You was gonna say something.
Well, what I believe is great about the Y model is that we are not only working on the mental health of the youth, but we are transforming them to be the change makers.
Yes.
We are engaging them in our programs so that now they can be the ones who are transforming that experience to other young people. So it's like not a single effect or double effect, it's really the triple effect that we are always aiming at.
You use that word change maker, and we had a podcast earlier with a young lady, Kate. Kate's a freshman up at Duke, but Duke University in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it's amazing because she's been doing transformational things as a freshman. I'm sorry, she started off at the high school, and now she's a freshman at Duke and just doing amazing things. And we're tossing that word change maker around a lot, though. But what are the things that you guys are saying that really help young people to have that voice to truly be that change maker today?
Yeah, and to take hold of, right, of their mental health, and know that there are folks who are out here to support them and want them to be the best version of themselves, spirit, mind, and body. See, I didn't have to recreate the wheel. It was already there. It was original, whatever. But so last go round. If you had to give a call to action, right? Like the one thing you want to look people dead in the eye and say, do this and do it now. What would it be? You got a call to action, Karen? I know y'all have a call to action.
Yeah, we do.
I got one.
Well, as I was saying, there are very little resources for this work.
Yeah.
So we need more philanthropy dollars, more public health spending, and we need more advocacy for this issue.
So
we need more people to join the cause and help us advance this work, because certainly in our case, even though there is growing awareness, the dollars are not there yet.
Right.
Yeah. What about you, Rami? Call to action.
I have two of them.
Yeah.
One of them is for the people who are suffering from mental health issues, is that we do not want to be victims. We want to be survivors.
Yeah.
And I think this will shift how we think of ourselves and how we want others to think of us as well.
I love that. Yeah.
Because I do not want my people to be thinking as victims. That whole mentality of victimhood is very depressing. But the whole idea of that I survived political violence and now I'm able to take it forward, to take hope forward, is very important. Call of action for the international community and people who are hearing us is that be involved and support field work, because it really matters.
It matters.
It really matters in the worldwide to help people on the ground to make a difference in the lives of people. There are so many issues. There are so many people who want to be part of our programs. So the support, not only the financial support, but really be a friend, be someone who's advocating for other people, and just use your voice to be able to tell the story. People need their stories to be told, and I think that's something we need to work on.
I love that. I love that.
Nice.
Ditto to all that. And I would, my call to action is we all have mental health. And make sure that you are prioritizing your mental health no matter where you are, and reach out if you need support, if you need help. How can we help you get connected to community, those support systems? We're here for you. So just really want to say that.
Love it. Rami, Karen, and Antonio, thank you guys for amplifying a ridiculously important subject today, and sitting on the Cosmetic Podcast with me and Keith too.
Thank you both.
We're on that note right there. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. So look, thank you guys for listening to Cosmetic at World Council.
On this episode called Spirit, Mind, and Body.
Hey, look, subscribe to us, listen to us weekly.
And don't be shy. Give us a 5-star review.
And as always,
be dynamic.
be phenomenal.
Be cosmetic.